Page 1. Poverty is Not Natural, by George Curtis, 2020. 0.0. Introduction. In his Trafalgar Square speech in 2005, Nelson Mandela offered a challenge, which remains relevant to each one of us today, and a call to action. Overcoming poverty is not a task of charity, it is an act of justice. Like slavery and apartheid, poverty is not natural. It is man-made and it can be overcome and eradicated by the actions of human beings. Sometimes it falls on a generation to be great. You can be that great generation. The United Nations lists ending a poverty in all its forms everywhere as its first sustainable development goal. This is a noble and desirable aspiration, but it is questionable whether the IMF's neoclassical trickle-down theory or a redistributive tax system and an expensive, bureaucratic welfare state are adequate for the task. The evidence shows that inequality is on the increase both in the developed and developing world, regardless of economic policy, suggesting the existence of a common cause which neither is addressing. This book picks up the gauntlet that Mandela threw down and offers a completely different approach, seeking first to establish the fundamental cause of poverty worldwide. Drawing on the work of the 19th-century American economist, Henry George, whose book, Progress and Poverty, probed the question of why it was that, as the Industrial Revolution increased wealth enormously, poverty was not lessened. On the contrary, the richer the society, the greater the inequality. The position remains the same today as it was in the 19th century, again suggesting a common cause, some flaw in the way in which wealth is distributed. Adam Smith was in no doubt about the cause. As soon as land becomes private property, the landlord demands a share of almost all the produce which the laborer can either raise, or collect from it. His rent makes the first deduction from the produce of the labor which is employed upon land. This raises a moral issue. Is it right that ownership of land should entitle the owner to take the lion's share of the wealth produced when they may have contributed little or nothing to its production? Indeed, if they have contributed, then their entitlement to a share should be based on their labor, just as it would be for their co-workers, not on their ownership of the land. In fact, is land ownership necessary for the efficient functioning of an economy? Clearly, nobody is going to sow if they cannot reap the benefits of their work, so some form of land tenure is necessary to ensure that producers get the product of their labor, but the present economic arrangements have created a system whereby a class of people, landowners, are entitled to a share of the wealth produced without having to contribute to its production, thereby depriving the producers of their full reward. This is a man-made system and is not sacrosanct. It can be replaced by a fairer system. Henry George expressed a steadfast belief in the efficacy of natural law, properly understood and respected, to erase social problems, problems which, indeed, result from society's denial of natural law. Solving the curse of poverty requires distinguishing what is rightly private property from what is public property, thereby aligning the economy and society with natural law. This book explores the moral and practical arguments for a major economic reform that would end involuntary poverty by changing the way government is funded. As Nelson Mandela pointed out above, a poverty is not natural and it can be overcome and eradicated by human beings. He also stressed that overcoming poverty is not a task of charity, it is an act of justice. Page 11.